powered by Riverside FM.
Welcome to Sleuths Unleashed, unraveling criminal cases with your podcast hosts Victoria Kennedy and Susan Gonzalez. In this podcast, we dive deep into the world of crime solving, exploring both the mysteries that baffle and the breakthroughs that inspire. Whether it's cold cases, unsolved disappearances, or the innovative techniques that crack the toughest puzzles, we bring you stories that captivate and challenge the mind. Join us as we uncover the truth, one case at a time. Stay curious, stay vigilant, and let's get sleuthing.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to our podcast, our fourth episode of Sleuths Unleashed. And we are going to cover the OJ Simpson case today. So that would be the murders of Nicole Brown Simpson and Ron Goldman. I'm joined tonight still with my co-host,
Victoria.
And myself, Susan. And we will start discussing this case. So let's look. On June 12th, 1994, we have Nicole Brown Simpson, who's out having an ordinary day. She got up early, cooked breakfast for her children, took them on a shopping trip, and attended a dance recital for her daughter, Sydney. Once that was over, they were planning on going to an Italian restaurant called Mezzaluna. That is where Ron Goldman worked. After they left the restaurant, Nicole Simpson realized she had accidentally left her prescription sunglasses behind, so she had contacted Goldman, who recovered the glasses and decided to go back to her house and drop them off that evening. Tragically, that is where it would lead to Goldman being viciously murdered alongside Nicole Brown Simpson. Nicole Simpson and Ron Goldman supposedly were just friends at this time. They weren't seeing each other per se, or that's what's understood. They were just kind of good friends, getting along, talking. But it's unclear whether he arrived at the house right when Nicole was being murdered or before the murder started taking place, if he had walked in on it or what was going on. So that's still kind of like left unsaid. After the murder, we know that her dog was the one that began howling and startled the neighbors. So they went out to investigate, and they seen the dog running up and down the street with blood all over its paws. And the dog reportedly led the worried neighbors to the gruesome crime scene, that's where they found Nicole Simpson and Ron Goldman murdered.
So if we looking back at things in retrospect, I mean, this is someone who is an amazing football player. He has his nickname, The Juice. Not only was he a football player, but he was an actor and a media personality who he was in the National Football League in the NFL for 11 seasons. You know, I have to say that I don't know anything about football, but I do know that growing up, I did know who OJ Simpson was. So when all this kind of took place, I really was not aware of who Nicole Simpson was. It wasn't until the whole Bronco chase when they were broadcasting it just about on every news station. And at that point, I pretty much was thinking, what the heck's going on? Because at the time, I did not know that it was OJ Simpson in that Bronco, in the famous white Bronco. When I found out that it was OJ Simpson, then you kind of start thinking, what is going on? Why is he running? Why is there like this chase going on? So after the fact, that's when I learned about the tragedy that actually had taken place. And one of the questions I had was, since her two children, her son and her daughter, were upstairs, you cannot tell me that there was not some sort of a scuffle, because I believe Ron Goldman actually had some type of like marks on him, which indicated that he was fighting back. And there's going to be noises, there's going to be screaming, there's going to be, yelling and shouting. And not one of his kids was able to hear what was going on. That right there just amazes me. When it came time to kind of ask questions like, what is going on? How come he's in this white Bronco? Who is this person driving the car? Or how come OJ Simpson is in the back? I was just so confused. At the time, I had no idea who Nicole Simpson was. Like I said, I know who OJ Simpson was, but I did not have any idea about who he was married to or even his children. So the one thing that baffles me is that when it came time to go and murder Ron Goldman and Nicole Brown, because his two children were still upstairs asleep, you mean to tell me that neither one of them were able to tell that something was going on? Anytime there's some type of a scuffle, a fight, whatever you want to call it, there's always going to be some type of yelling, shouting, something. And I'm pretty sure that that had to have gotten someone's attention, aside from the dog barking. But that really baffles me.
Well, yeah, because it doesn't seem like the neighbors really heard anything until the dog, is what I'm assuming. So, like, did she not scream? I mean, I would think she fought back because there was, I mean, wounds on her hands. But then again, she was like the crime scene was so brutal. I'm not sure. But then you also have a second person there. So wouldn't he be screaming or fighting them off? Or, there had to have been so much stuff going on. You wonder how nobody heard him. But I'm not quite sure how close the houses were either in that area.
I believe it was actually, I think it was a condo, I believe it was.
So they were pretty
Um,
close.
yeah, and I mean, this is Southern California. We're pretty much on top of everyone, basically. I mean, if my neighbors next to me, if they're having an argument, I can hear them, right? Just, that's how the homes and how the condos are here, regardless if you have a private entry or not. But that's what I'm saying. I just don't seem to understand that, which leads to believe me, I apologize for that, which leads me to believe that there obviously was a second person, maybe even three people.
Yeah, I always thought there was an initial person because the thing I always thought about was even the build of seeing somebody the size of OJ Simpson. Like, somebody had, I think there was a witness that had stated there was like two people seen there. And he had an older son. And I always believed that there may have been that the older son was the one involved in it mainly because there was a lot to him. And I know OJ had physically beat her before, and it had been reported many a times that he was abusive and yelling, but he didn't ever go to the extreme of what he said he was doing. I mean, he did threaten to kill her, and he said he was going to kill her, and he would get away with it. And that was always something that was said. And obviously, at this point, that did happen. But I always thought the son had something to do with it too, because the night that she was murdered, she was really supposed to be going to his restaurant, and he was supposed to cook for all of them. But they ended up canceling that and didn't end up going to that restaurant. So they went to the restaurant where Ron Goldman worked. Um, and I just feel like it made him upset about that because he was planning on them coming in. And I think that he was angry, and I don't know if that just set him off or what, but I know at one point there was a lot of things about this son that was made, that he may have had a lot of issues with rage. And, he was one of those that was like, if you're going to hurt my family, then I'm going to take care of the problem and things like that. So he had a lot of mental health issues going on. So I think, especially with OJ, because, they made him out to be the suspect right away. They were on him like nothing. Um, but when they went to his house, they only found a drop of her blood on his sock. So that's what made me think that there was two people there too. I almost think that he was there to help the son get out of it, like almost like a cover up. Um, Maybe the son called him and had told him what he did. Um, I'm not quite sure because they didn't look at the son. So I'm thinking like the crime scene to me, somebody had to fight back. You know what I mean? Goldman had to fight, Nicole had to fight. It doesn't seem to me that OJ Simpson's just going to have one little gash on his arm or on his finger, and that's how the blood was left at the crime scene. And I'm not saying that OJ wasn't there and OJ didn't have a part in it. I'm just saying that I don't think that he committed the crimes himself. I think that his son did, and that there's a lot surrounding his son that puts it on him.
TMZ actually did I guess you can say, a documentary about this sometime this month. I believe it's on Tubi, and they actually talked about there being a limo. I want to say in the back or like in the alleyway of where her house was. And as soon as they saw the TMZ guy, I can't even think of his name right now. I totally see his face. Harvey. I just don't know what his last name is. That once he kind of went down that alley, or he was on that same street, or like within that area, within close proximity, that limo just left. So, kind of going back in retrospect as to what you had mentioned, if this is this the son, um, and was OJ Simpson there to pick him up and saying like, "What are you doing?" and ultimately taking the fall for his son, because there's actually been quite a few speculations that his son had some type of involvement in regards to that.
Yeah, and the thing was is that the son had really bad anger issues, kind of like his dad. Um, but the son, his build was almost like his dad's too, to where you could get them mixed up if you saw them in the dark. So I think, and he had issues where they said that he would say that he was kind of like Jekyll and Hyde. So he would be like happy one moment and like mad the next, and he could do very dangerous things. And it had been reported, that he tried to almost kill one of his girlfriends with a knife and almost seriously injured another when he was in a fit of rage. Um, the only thing is, you know, and OJ, of course, was accused of domestic violence, but had never been in trouble for it. So the son had done some things, and that's where I kind of think maybe his anger was pointed toward Nicole because he felt like maybe she was, I don't know, since she didn't go to his restaurant the night and he was already prepping for her to come there, maybe that just sent him over the edge, as he was expecting her to be there and he was expecting to cook for her and to be at this restaurant, and she just did not come. So he got mad and upset and felt like maybe she was blowing him off for some reason.
Could
I'm not
have.
quite sure.
I think at this point, there's so many directions that this actually could have fallen into. But at the same time, because this is OJ Simpson, it's like, okay, we have this huge celebrity who lives in Southern California. He's threatened his wife on numerous occasions. They're no longer together. He's beat her, and we have photos of it. She's filed, restraining orders and so forth. It has to be him. So if LAPD would have looked at it through different angles, which, I live in Southern California. I see LAPD all the time. And as I mentioned, because OJ Simpson is this big shot, I'm not going to say celebrity, but a very prominent and popular, well known athlete, to them, it's like, I can make a name for myself. We can just automatically file these charges against him because of his prior accusations. If you actually go back, he actually had a girlfriend for 13 years, Christy Prody. I think that's how you say her name, Prody, Prody. And she actually said that the relationship was filled with abuse and suspicion. Obviously, he was really jealous. She alleged that Simpson threatened to kill her and subjected her to constant physical and emotional abuse. But there's also mention in a source that two families of women Simpson had dated were reportedly paid off by USC to keep stories of abuse from coming to light. So he obviously has this track record of, of domestic violence. But at the same time, I know that domestic violence is a huge crime. It's a serious situation. But at the same time, just because somebody goes and ends up abusing their girlfriend or their wife, or just like this one night stand, I guess we could say, doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to actually kill them. But going back again in retrospect, he actually had that other allegation of kidnapping. I want to say this was in Nevada, and he was actually charged for it. It was armed robbery and kidnapping in 2007.
Right. So a lot of people thought he got his punishment then, but I mean, because he ended up in jail anyways, but I just don't know. I mean, yeah, I could say that he he had a mean streak, but it looks like his maybe that was like in the family, a family thing. Um but like so when I look at the murder, we know that the murder took place somewhere between what 9:45 and 10:15 because they say that there was a neighbor that heard the dog. That's when the neighbor heard the dog and some cries about
Hmm.
10:15 p.m. So we know that Jason was supposed to be at work, but his time card is what threw me off because I did some research on him kind of on that night, and his time card showed that he had handwritten the times in that he was there instead of using the electronic clock that was right on the wall that was working that night that everybody else used. So it was kind of strange that he would handwrite that in. So they know that he has no alibi from 9:50 p.m. and on. But we know that at 9:40, well, we know about 9 to 9:30 that OJ Simpson and his friend Kaylin, the one that was living out in the backyard of his house, went to dinner for McDonald's between 9 and 9:30, and they returned home about 9:45. So we have both of these people, the two, about the same time getting back home or off work at the same time. Now I know I watched an episode to where I wanted to see about Jason leaving his work and going to where Nicole lived. And he does have enough time between the time of he got off and the time the murders happened to get to her house. Um, so that it's not a very big window for either one of them, actually. So, but I don't think Simpson lived very far from her either. So when the murders occur, you have Simpson driving back to his house and supposedly he's covered. He wouldn't you be covered in all this blood? You would think you would be covered in blood. You'd have scratch marks, different things on your body, more than a drop of blood. I mean, more than a drop of Nicole's blood would be found on a sock, you would think. And I mean, I know we had the blood print on the car, but it just throws me through a loop that why would you hire your own attorney, but also hire your son an attorney to where nobody could speak with the son either afterwards? So it's almost like he was covering for the son and knew that if he kept the spotlight off of his son onto him, that he could prove that he didn't actually commit the murders himself and that he would get off on it. That's
No,
what
I
my theory
definitely
was.
agree.
And that
I
he went
definitely agree.
down and helped clean up. And that's why he wasn't at home when the limousine driver arrived at 10:25 p.m. that evening. He wasn't at home right then, and he went inside and was able to take a shower and come out about 11 p.m. There's no way he's going to be able to clean up his car from all that blood that was at the crime scene because that crime scene was gruesome. He would have to clean up himself, his car, and everything before the police got to him. And they went to his house while he was out of town. So you're telling me in 45 minutes he was able to do all of that to where when the police got to the car, but he didn't clean the fingerprint off the car. So but everything else in that whole time frame. But they never looked at once at the son. So the son had the whole time after the murders were committed and days upon days to clean himself up, heal from any wounds that he had on his body and everything. And they even said, I think the black cap that was found at the crime scene had hairs and dog hair in it, but none of it belonged to Simpson directly. So it could have been either or. I mean, I'm thinking both of them were there. So that's my theory. I think Jason killed her, and Ron Goldman either walked up on it, or because he was found on the side of the house, not coming down the stairs like she was. So I think he walked in on it happening and tried to stop it, and that's why, like his fingers show a lot of um, cuts and almost taken off fingers because he tried to fight off whoever it was. And I honestly believe it was the son, and he had time to heal. I mean, they never took his DNA. They never checked his house for clothes. They never checked anything for him. And the glove didn't fit. So does the son have a smaller hand than OJ Simpson does? Because OJ, of course, has big hands. He was a football player. He was a running back. He's going to have to hold that ball, keep good traction of it. Maybe the son had smaller hands, and that's why the glove did not fit in the courtroom. And that's what got him off.
See, OJ Simpson, he was 6'2". He weighed 212 pounds. So he was a big guy.
Right.
And going back and looking at the timeline as close as they could get, they're saying at 6:30 Nicole Simpson attended I'm sorry, at 6:30 the recital was pretty much done. And after that, that's when they went to Mezzaluna. From 10:41 to 10:45, that's when Cato Kalin was saying that he heard a thumping noise on the opposite side of the wall, and he goes outside to investigate. At 10:50 to 10:55, a neighbor spots the dog by itself barking with bloody paws. At 11:01, waiting since 10:25 p.m., limousine driver Alan Park sees Simpson exit his house. A few minutes later, Alan Park drives OJ Simpson to the LAX airport for his flight to Chicago. His flight takes off at 11:45 p.m. At 12:10 a.m., the dog leads neighbors to the dead bodies of Goldman and um, and Simpson, which lie near the gate. At 4:15 a.m., Simpson checks into a hotel in Chicago. At 4:30 a.m., police arrive at O.J. Simpson Rockingham mansion to inform him of Nicole Brown's Simpson's death, but instead discover his blood-stained Bronco and a bloody glove that matches one found near Goldman's body. At 10:45 a.m., a search warrant was issued, and they went into his mansion, and they're saying that they found even more blood traces on the property, including in his Bronco. At 12 p.m., he returns to LAX airport, and he goes right to his mansion, and he's immediately handcuffed. He's taken to the police station where he is questioned for hours. Um, so, anytime somebody has blood on their hands, that blood literally sticks to you. And you can obviously take it off, but if you're just running your hands under cold or warm or even hot water, it's just not going to come off. You have to scrub that off to get that off.
Right.
So, going back to what you said, his son had plenty of time to go home, to clean up, to get rid of whatever evidence. And I have said all along when this had actually happened that he was not the one who killed her. But do I believe that his son had something to do with it? Absolutely. Allegedly, he had something to do with it,
Right.
without a doubt.
Well, and there's a lot of things that point to the sun too, like I said, they found that black cap. It was like one of those beanie type caps. And OJ wasn't known to wear those, but his son was known to wear those. And there's lots of photographs that you can find out on the web that his son was wearing that caps like that while he's sitting with his dog wearing a cap. So that's one thing they found at the crime scene was that black cap with dog hair and other hair in it that didn't match OJ's. But at the same time, why would you have to, prior to you getting arrested, like OJ Simpson, prior to you getting arrested, why are you hiring an attorney? Because he hired a top criminal attorney, Carl Jones, to represent Jason, even though he wasn't a suspect. So why would you have to hire an attorney for your son, even though he wasn't a suspect? That's kind of interesting as well. Like, there's no reason for that. Nobody even talked about your son at all. And they still didn't after that. But that, to me, screams out something because you're hiding something there.
Well,
And
even up to
Go ahead.
even up to this very day, they still have not brought up his son. It's the
No,
same thing. OJ, 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 OJ. There's never been, well, let's kind of go back, re-examine, and see if we missed something.
and there's a lot of things like his son, he was in while attending the Army and Navy Academy. They said that he learned and was trained in hand-to-hand combat as well as field knife training. So he was able to use a knife and knew how to use it too, to where you could do the damage that you did to the person. I mean, it's sad to say, but the person that killed Nicole Brown Simpson literally almost decapitated her. Like, her head was almost literally off her body. That takes a lot of anger and that takes a lot of pressure. And to be able to kill someone and stab them as many times as you did and only have one little cut on your finger like OJ had, that to me is just like, no. I think he just maybe got nicked at some point during this whole thing, but I don't think that you can go in there and almost nearly decapitate a person, almost take fingers off of a person, down to the bone, through the bone, and you have nothing to show for it on your body whatsoever. Like, and Jason was very good. Like, Naval Army and Navy Academy is going to train you to do a lot of things. And he was third degree black belt too. So it's not like he didn't know how to defend off himself too. So you're talking about a big, huge man, because he was big. I don't think he was the size of his dad, but he was a bigger guy. Could take them. Nicole Simpson and Ron Goldman. Ron Goldman wasn't a very big guy at all. There's a
No.
lot of things that point to him and nobody looked at.
Well, that's why he decided to go and hire that attorney for that reason alone. Because
Yeah, I think he just wanted nobody to talk to his son. So if anybody came a knocking, they'd know, the lawyer would be like, you can't talk to him. So he'd already have coverage. Gives him time to heal. He disappeared from the spotlight. You didn't see him. I mean, where was he that whole time?
But see, OJ Simpson, okay, so this is what I'm feeling. I am feeling that um OJ Simpson's son was not alone when all this happened. I feel he was there with someone else. Once everything was done, because there was so much rage, so much hatred, so much negativity, I feel at that point, he kind of thought, after he kind of came to in a way and saw all the blood and everything, at that point he called his dad. His dad went, tried to get him out of there as quickly as possible, try to pick up, because you're going to try to kill or stab someone numerous times with a knife. You're also going to have cuts on your hands, not on your fingers, just not on your fingers, but also on your hands, because that motion is going to cause your hand to slide. So a lot of times people actually end up cutting their own hands because of that. And OJ Simpson did not have that.
Well, and that's what I was saying. Like, unless you're somebody that was trained in combat fighting with knives, like somebody that knew how to use a knife and what ways to use it in order to hurt somebody badly. And they had a lot of evidence that they couldn't pinpoint to OJ, and I believe that's why he tried to take the blame from his son to make it look like, hey, come after me, charge me with it, and you're going to find me not guilty because I didn't physically do it. I mean, they had what, 15 separate unidentified fingerprints at the crime scene. None of them belonged to OJ Simpson. They had Jason, which is OJ Simpson's son, who was on probation for assault with a deadly weapon for attacking his boss with a kitchen knife, but never went and looked at him. They found blood and skin under Nicole's fingernails, along with blood drops on her back that didn't match OJ at all. And there was never a interview or a DNA sample taken from Jason. They never talked to him. They never did anything to try to compare him to the crime scene. No fingerprints, no nothing. I wonder if, I mean, they have all that evidence still. Why can't you do that now? I mean, there's time you can still go back. And I'm not saying that OJ is completely innocent in this whole thing at all. I'm not saying that at all because, I believe that there was a lot of anger and rage there. And even if he knew about it, I think at least by a long shot, he knew about it. So I think he's still guilty of something. Do I think he's guilty of the actual crime itself? No. But that's just what I think.
Even if they were to say, hey, let's go back and re-examine this whole OJ Simpson murder trial. Well, first of all, Los Angeles is already literally drowning underwater with their finances. But second of all, if they were to do that, they know that other people are going to come up under their radar. And that's going to cause red flags. And that's when it's going to kind of have to come to the limelight. Oh, crap. You know what? We messed up. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, Ron Goldman, that we accused OJ Simpson for killing your son and the Brown family. I'm so sorry that we accused OJ Simpson of killing your sister, your daughter. And that's when lawsuits would begin. Well, wait a minute. You told me that was OJ Simpson, so who ended up killing my child? LA County, LAPD, there would be emotional distress lawsuits, all kinds of things.
And then they'd have to admit that they were wrong, of course. So there's that. That's the biggest factor right there.
Which
Law
they would
enforcement
never
never
do.
wants to law enforcement never wants to admit that they were wrong. And a lot of people try to use the excuse, well, he was just found innocent because of the Rodney King beating right then, and a lot of the jurors just wanted to stick it to LAPD, for the crime. But I honestly and maybe that could be part of some of the truth to that. I don't know, because some of the jurors could have been upset and done that. I'm not sure. But honestly, I think when you found him not guilty because the evidence there just wasn't enough evidence, like I said, the glove. And a lot of people said, well, maybe it shrunk because it got wet. I don't think it shrunk that much if it got wet with blood. And when they found the glove, why wasn't it, what, like, I just don't think, I know they shrink, but that's not going to shrink entirely that much to where OJ's hand can't fit in it at all. I mean, he could barely get half his hand in that. So I just think maybe going back and looking at the evidence, looking at the son, because you didn't hear about the son at all after that. Like, they kept the spotlight off that son at all times. There was nothing about that son whatsoever in any of the pieces, any of the articles, anything. Nobody even thought about it. And everybody knew that if it was her, who's the first person you go after anyways? Usually the husband or the ex-husband. And they had a domestic abuse background. So, of course, he's going to be the one that's going to kill her. He didn't have a lot of time. And to be acting in a normal manner when he gets in the car with the limousine driver didn't see anything off about him where he had just brutally killed two people within 45 minutes of the limousine drive to the airport to go on vacation. That just, I don't know. It just it seems off to me that he would be able to clean himself up and be into a headspace that he would be acting like his normal self when you get in the car. Nothing's off. You're not like looking for anything, like being suspicious or anything like that at that time. I mean, if he did, he's good.
Well, airports are always going to have cameras, even then. It's nowadays it's as if there's cameras everywhere. I mean, I have cameras outside of my own home. If there's anything acting out of the ordinary, it's all it's always going to be picked up on camera now. You got to think this is a guy who, I mean, he's a very well known professional football player. And you mean to tell me that nobody stopped him, say, to get his autograph? Again, as I mentioned earlier, I know nothing about football. It's not my sport. But if I know certain football players and I see them, of course I'm going to want their autograph. And I'm pretty sure there was people at that airport who actually were could have testified to, oh, I got his autograph. He seems fine. But again, there's just so many missed opportunities that LAPD could have taken or could have went with rather than just pointing the finger at OJ Simpson. And like as you know, as we both mentioned, domestic violence is a serious issue. Neither one of us take that lightly. There's so many women and even men who are in that situation and they can't get out. And even though OJ Simpson threatened to kill her, emotionally abuse other women and also threaten to kill them, does not necessarily make that person a killer. And I'm probably going to get backlash on this, but from day one, as I mentioned, I do not feel that OJ Simpson had any part in this as far as the murder. Do I feel that he went to help his son and whomever else? Absolutely, I do.
Well, we don't discredit domestic abuse at all, but the anger that has to go through your body to be able to commit the crime that you committed. I mean, even just because you can look at the crime scene photos just on Google, the anger that was in a person to commit what they did is just it's it's got to be off the charts because of, I mean, you can kill a person, but like like on previous cases we've talked about, there's overkill too. You know, the person's already dead. Why do you have to go so far? There was no need, to almost decapitate her. I mean, she was long gone before that, but you kept going. And then for Ron Goldman, I mean, he was just stabbed and stabbed and stabbed and I mean, I mean, his fingers were almost off and stab wounds everywhere. It's just you had to continuously keep going and the anger and the, like you said, blacking out. People say they black out and they don't know what happened, and then when they come to, they're like freaking out. And and the son had a history of that. He had a history of going to the ER saying, hey, like, I feel like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. He had the abuse and was on drugs for, like, prescribed drugs for rage issues and for alcohol abuse and ecstasy, and he used drugs and did different things, and he has a background of the domestic abuse and the deadly weapons and using all of that, whereas OJ didn't have. We have phone calls of him yelling in the background, and we have pictures of her, with black eyes and things like that, and we know that he beat her, but not to the extent where we ever had anything where he was actually charged with anything, and like deadly weapons, where he used deadly weapons. And a lot of times people will say things about killing. And I know they said, like, wasn't it Caitlyn Jenner that came out and said OJ had told Kris Jenner that he was going to kill her? Or Nicole Simpson told Kris Jenner he was going to kill her and he would get away with it. And they said that he did. But that doesn't necessarily mean that he necessarily went and did it himself. And even if he didn't, what is it to say that he didn't get the son riled up? The son's anger had been boiling, and just her not coming into the restaurant boiled it over because she was divorcing his dad. She was accusing him of all this domestic violence, the two younger kids they had together and all the stuff that was going on and the divorce and everything that she was doing. He would think she was doing towards his dad that was not in the best interest of his father, because he's going to take his dad's side and everything, not hers. He's not going to take her side. But at the same time, then when she canceled on him and he was prepared for all of this evening with her and her family to come into his restaurant and do all this stuff, it just was like put him over the edge. It just obviously he had that rage disorder, so anything could set you off at any given time. So it could have been that it just was the final straw to it. And I believe that he had something to do with it. I mean, I think they need to retest everything. And I think they would find that maybe that's where you have the issue of the glove and the fingerprints and the hair and the dog hair. What's to say that didn't match his dog because he had a dog? I mean, you have a lot of stuff that you could test against that. Because I know when they run DNA, they're running to see if it matches. But at the same time, I guess if you have a son, it's going to be a close match, but not an. They were looking for a match directly towards OJ, which that wouldn't match. So
You know, what I am kind of, I don't know, this actually just totally popped into my head. So what I am seeing is literally just one person. And as I mentioned, I mean, do I feel that Jason did this? Without a doubt, yes. But without actual factual proof, I'm gonna just say, I see an African American male going to the house. Something kind of happened between him and Nicole. There was some type of verbal disagreement, but more so with this adult male. Things got out of control. There was no way that any girl is going to be able to compare their strength with a guy, regardless of what I know. I mean, I'm a black belt in Krav Maga. I will be able to put up a good fight, but ultimately, the guy get is pretty much going to be able to get me, right?
right.
Unless I can totally run away. But in Nicole, but with Nicole Brown Simpson, I mean, this is just someone who, you know, just loves life. And, you know, as far as any type of self defense techniques, I don't think she had any. And I don't really feel that she ever thought she needed that. Was she scared of OJ? Absolutely. But kind of going back and, into this whole thing, like I said, there was no way she was going to be able to compare her strength with him. And then Ron Goldman, he just happened to walk into it. And at that point, there was already so much rage that he had no choice but to pretty much kill him. And that's when that whole, oh crap, what did I do? Hey dad, this just what happened. I mean, crying on the phone like they're uncontrollably. And that's when OJ Simpson, what I feel, went and tried to help him. Like, let's get you out of here. Let's go, go, go. And try to pick up random things as he's leaving.
Yeah. And that's where I think he got nicked on something because he was just trying to hurry. And that's why he had the nick on his finger and maybe the little drop of blood because they said it was like a drop of blood on his sock, a tiny drop of blood. But like you said, what's to say that maybe Jason didn't go over to confront her about not coming to his restaurant and he was already in a fit of rage and it just blew up, or Ron Goldman walked in and that was the final straw because the son said, "Oh, so you have a friend coming over and another guy, and that's why you didn't want to come to my restaurant." And maybe that threw him over the edge. There's so many different reasons that a person could go into a rage. But if you have a symptom like that and you're already mentally ill and you have an illness, then it's not going to be hard to throw you into a rage. And who knows if he was taking the medicine correctly, or, if you're drinking or taking other drugs, those medications don't work properly anyways either. So there's a whole lot of things, but I really think that they should look into him. I mean, it's worth looking into. I mean, what could it hurt? Except for the fact that it would hurt their pride.
And that's the thing with LAPD. They have been sued over and over and over. False accusations, they're doing something wrong. And when this actually all happened, I mean, they already had like this underground bad boys club or something like that. I'm just kind of making a random name out there, but there was already issues with them. And
Well, yeah,
unfortunately
because
there
of the
still
Rodney
are
King.
issues. Yeah. Yeah.
the beating. I mean, that put a big old damper on him from the get go. And then this happens after that. And it's like everybody's looking at him like they're nothing. Who are you? Like, I mean, jurors are looking at him like they're incompetent and they can't do their job right. And but at the same time, look at how many things have gone wrong with this justice system. There's so much wrong with the justice system these days that, I mean, I don't know if we could ever get it right. I don't know if we could ever be right the way our justice system works.
It's sad
Because you
that
got,
I don't think that we're ever going to be able to be at that point where we are so 100% satisfied with our justice system.
I mean,
California alone, we have a governor who ended up getting rid of the death penalty because he felt it was inhumane. But yet it's not inhumane when some serial killer or somebody gets mad and wants to kill somebody. That's okay. That's pretty much okay. Let's just give them a slap on the wrist and they'll have their 3 meals a day and they'll get sunshine outside. But yet it's the families who are left with the turmoil of they no longer have their loved one here, just like with Nicole Simpson. She had her entire life ahead of her. A mom who loved her children, loved her friends, and just because of one incident, her entire life was taken.
well, yeah, and it's like the justice system finds people that aren't guilty, and people
Mhm.
that are guilty not guilty. So it's like, but sometimes they do get it right. When they have DNA or they have evidence, proof wise, they do get it right. And I believe that's the case. If you have DNA and you could place them at a scene of a crime and you have them dead to rights there, then great. But a lot of these cases that you've seen from years ago, before the 2000s, before DNA even started becoming more prominent, that these people didn't do it and they find in somebody else that did it, or they're arresting 80-year-old people now because of cases and letting people that have been sitting in jail for 30 years off the hook. I mean, there's just so much that goes on, and I just think in order to start getting it to work again, you have to go back and correct the mistakes, even if you don't want to, and even if it's going to hurt your pride. You need to go back and correct the mistakes, because if you don't, then this is always going to be a damper over you. And it's always going to be like, oh, well, you never even took responsibility for that, so why should we trust you now? If you never take responsibility for the actions you do, then who's going to trust you in the future? Nobody. Even if you get it right, they're still not going to trust you.
Even OJ Simpson lawyer, one of his lawyers, Robert Kardashian, when they were announcing the verdict of not guilty, and you can even go on and you can Google this, you can go on YouTube. The Kardashian attorney, the way he looked at Simpson, like, what? Is this for real? Like, how can you be defending someone if you know that they're guilty? I mean, because his face expression said it all.
And I think that's why he backed out of the case a little bit. Like, he wasn't up front and center of it. Um, I think he kind of pulled himself back and reined it back because I think he knew all the details because of the friendship that they had.
Yeah.
And and when you're his lawyer, you know more of the details, and OJ's able to give you more information because you cannot talk about it. So he had to live with all of that too. I think he knew more because he was a friend of OJ's too, outside of the other lawyers that were there. I just think that he lived with that, and it's sad that he had to live with it, and I think he didn't like it. I mean, they said what he gave him a Bible too, to even told him to read it. I mean, he was pretty much telling everybody, I know that he was involved in this, but he just, couldn't come right out and say it because, of course, he's a lawyer, and that's against the ethical background of a lawyer. So can't really say much.
Yeah, it's sad. I mean, this is a man who was an amazing football player and he had so much going for him. And all because of this other person who decided to end the lives of Nicole Simpson and of Ron Goldman, he ended up taking the fall for it. And as a parent, I mean, of course, we're going to want to go and try to do what we can for our kids. But there'd be no way I would do that. I would say, my goodness, you have to own it basically. There's nothing I can do for you here. And not only that, but why not try to get your child some type of mental health care? And who's to say, maybe he did, maybe he didn't. Maybe the son was just being stubborn, didn't want to take his medication, didn't want to follow through. Who knows? But the fact of the matter is that Nicole Brown Simpson and Ron Goldman are no longer here because of this. And for LAPD to go back and try to test DNA, they're not going to do that because they know that they're going to end up being sued by both families.
Hair samples too. I mean, what's to say the hair didn't match OJ's, but that doesn't mean, I mean, you didn't look at the son's hair either, so, you know. But yeah, you're right. They're not going to go back and do anything about it. They just want to say, "Oh, OJ did it," and that's it. And a lot of people look at it like, when he went to prison in Nevada, that he ended up going to jail anyways, and then of course he got out and lived his life, but then he got cancer too. So, and then he ended up passing away, and I don't know if it's true or not, but a lot of things and reports came out that, when he was in his last final stages, that they made him everybody sign an NDA that went into his room because of what he would say or what he would talk about, and they didn't want anything being said from what was heard in the room.
I don't know. I kind of think someone would have leaked something by now.
I don't know. They said the only people were allowed in there was his family, and he made them sign NDAs. So I don't know if that's the truth or
Hmm.
not, but it's
I
possible.
mean, did he have any money?
I don't think he had much. I mean, he was still living a good life, I guess. I mean, I saw him on Twitter all the time and golfing and making comments about things that, I don't know, he would make his presence known, but he must have had something somewhere. He had to have. That's another thing too, is when you go to civil court, the evidence against you is way different than when you're in criminal
Criminal.
court.
Yeah.
Civil court, they can get you on anything with just a little bit of evidence, where in criminal court they have to have a lot more evidence. So when he went to civil court, yeah, of course he was found guilty because there was the drop of blood on his sock, he had the nick on his finger, there was some blood on his car, found in or around his house, but there wasn't the significant evidence that placed him to be the actual murderer. That's the problem. That's the part that gets you, is that in civil court he was found to have committed it because of the small evidence that linked him to the crime scene, but in criminal court he wasn't, because of all the evidence that was found that showed that how could he have possibly done it? How could he have possibly killed them? Because you had to prove he killed them. Nobody ever said he wasn't there. They just couldn't prove that he killed them in criminal.
No, it's absolutely right. It's just a very sad situation. I mean, the whole outcome of it for all families is really tragic, and it is sad. And there's people who are 100% convinced that OJ Simpson did this. There's other people who are 100% feel that his son did this. There's other people out there speculating Kato Kalin has something to do with this, which no. He
Right.
absolutely had
He doesn't even look
nothing.
remotely. I don't know if
No,
he could take on two people at one time, maybe.
no, no, no. He's like someone who'll get like a golf club and say, "Go away, go away."
Right. He did not seem
But
like he would have any sense of doing anything like that.
no. But again, LAPD, if they wanted to do the right thing, they would. But unfortunately, they're not going to. They're already in having financial difficulties. Just the city of LA alone, they're already having budget cuts. We have the Olympics coming up soon, so the mayor and the governor have to make everything look all pretty. So there's all these new cuts that are coming along. There's all these new bills that are coming along. So to them, LAPD, it's just like, well, oh well, it's already done
How
and
about
over with.
that?
The Simpson is already dead. Oh well,
How
everybody's
about
dead.
that DA? How about that DA though? That DA that, wants to go after the Mendez brothers and find justice, but doesn't want to go after this case to find justice. He's all set in his mind stone to get justice for everybody.
Well, maybe nobody's brought it up to his attention.
Yeah, that's possible. I mean, he seems like he's anyways, he's making a good case for himself, saying that he's going after justice with this Mendez brothers case. Like he wants them to admit to this, and this before that. So it's like, well, if you're so on crime and justice and the truth, then why don't you start looking at some of these cases that you could look at and find out who did it and prove that they did it.
I know, exactly.
That's just me. But
no, I'm with you on
never
that.
goes that way anyways. You look at one person, you're like, well, if you can do it on one case, why can't you do it on the others? Start pulling the other cases, and let's start figuring out what you did wrong on these other cases and find who did it. Because honestly, this case is still open, correct? Because he was found not guilty. Or do you close it and say, oh, well, we figure he did it, so we're not going to do it anymore? I mean, that's pretty much what they've said, right?
He's dead, so case closed.
Right. But I think they closed it way before that, as soon as he was found not guilty, because they were just assuming he did it, he got off of it, and so we're not going to look at anybody else ever again. And that's what they did.
Right.
They just threw all the stuff off to the side, and we're just like, this case is closed. Who cares?
And I bet you they don't even have any more of the evidence. Apparently, they had two areas where they kept all the records, and they had this fire in one of the areas. And chances are that's probably where all OJ Simpson things were going to be at. And this was before they had anything digital, so all paper documentation, all evidence, all DNA, that's going to be gone. Even if the fire would not have touched it, oops, I don't know what happened. It was here. Right. It's not here. There's just an empty box.
Just disappeared.
Yes.
I get what you're saying. Yeah. And they'd probably use the fire as an excuse anyways. I mean, come on. It was in that area, so nope, don't have it. Can't do it.
I know. All right.
But seems like we hit this case pretty good, and I think we got a new case of a case that might not have even had any attention so far, and something that might not even be brought up as homicide as of right yet, I think. I don't even know I think it's undetermined how he died on the next episode, if we get that up and rolling. The Jason Abarca murder case. So that might be our next episode. Don't hold me to it, just saying that might be our next episode, but it's one that hasn't got any attention, and I'm not even sure it's classified as homicide, but the parents are pretty sure that it was homicide, and we've been looking into it, and we're doing some research, and that might be our next case. That might be a good case for everybody to pay attention to. But I think for tonight, we are done. We've discussed this case. If you have anything that you want to send to us, you can email us at sleuthsunleashed@gmail.com, and we have all social media avenues, so you can find us on social media at Sleuths Unleashed. And anything else that you want to add to the case before we go, or say anything?
No, just don't trust LAPD.
Right. And if they do come after you, just know, it might not be right. It could be wrong. But all right, everybody, have a good night, and we will be back next week.
Thank you for joining us on Sleuths Unleashed, Unraveling Criminal Cases. We hope today's episode sparked your curiosity and gave you a fresh perspective on the art of crime solving. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share this podcast with fellow sleuths. Stay vigilant, stay curious, and until next time, keep unraveling the mysteries of the world.